Hello, welcome to Talking Pictures, a podcast where we love to talk about movies, TV, and a whole load of other good stuff we love to talk about. My name is Brian and I will be your host for today. I'm joined by my friend and co-host, David. David, how's it going?
I'm good, Brian. How are you today?
David, we're here to talk about a look back movie.
Yes.
That released in 2015.
Last week we talked about School of Rock, and now we're finally here to talk about your decision, your choice. What are we going to watch, or what are we going to talk about today?
Mad Max Fury Road.
An excellent choice, I have to say.
I remember seeing this movie before my grad mass. I was in Dundalk and, what we're going to do today? Oh, Mad Max Fury Road. And I went to see it, and then straight afterwards I went to have my formal celebratory drinks with my fellow students and teachers after the mass and all, and lovely evening. But holy shit, Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, that's a weird one to kind of go from Mad Max to then a grad mass. Two very different kind of parts of your day.
Yeah, I'll just get straight into it, David. I really love this movie. Why do I love it? Well, it's simple. In a post-apocalyptic world where humanity has descended into insanity, a fierce warrior tries to lead these poor women who have been held captured to a better life from a tyrant warlord. And the movie is about a passive male lead that is stumbled across into their journey. I mean that wholeheartedly. This movie may as well be called Furiosa, but it's called Mad Max, and Tom Hardy has been recast to play Max Rokitansky, who was formerly played by Mel Gibson. And Tom Hardy did a great job as his version of Mad Max in a passive protagonist role. So what I mean by that is this plot starts and ends really with Charlize Theron playing Imperator Furiosa, because her task is to steal the wives of Immortan Joe, the villain of the movie, and lead them to a better life and take them away from his dominant control and he rapes them because he wants a male heir. So he's trying to lead these 5 beautiful, gorgeous women to a better life. These women, who are the actresses? One of them is the granddaughter of Elvis Presley. Another one eventually played Catwoman in opposite Robert Pattinson's Matt Reeves' Batman. And who else? Another girl eventually is one of the teenage girls in Yellow Jackets. So she's still young enough to pass as a teenager.
And Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, who was in the third Transformers. She replaced Megan Fox.
And Jason Statham's wife.
Yeah.
The other one, who's I don't know who the other girl is. I saw her in Lovecraft Country, but I haven't seen her in anything else. But really, this is the 4 standout leads. Really is Tom Hardy, Charlize Theron, Hugo Keys Burns. Forgive me. He plays Immortan Joe, and good Nicholas Hoult plays Nux, a brainwashed, simpleton war boy who believes to live in a better life once he dies gloriously on the Fury Road.
Let me ask you this about the War Boys.
And then he switched sides.
Let me ask you this about the War Boys. Were they, what was the crack with them? Were they only, because they said they had half-lives and stuff like that. I never quite understood. I was like, okay, did these guys, they only have a short life? Or what? Do you know a bit more on that?
They're dying.
They're just constantly in a state of almost dying.
Yeah, sure. Look at Nux, for example. He's got a form of cancer, probably lumps on his shoulder. And so, as a half-life, they take blood bags. In this case, Max. He's been captured. He's been harvested for his blood just to keep these boys living long enough for them to die in a glorious state for their leader and then be awaited on the gates of Valhalla. So within this society for Morton's followers, he's obviously brainwashed them to the point of wanting to, all right, I'm gonna die, spray some silver shit on my face, and then witness me, watch me die, and then die gloriously, as if they've descended back into the Viking age. Yet there's still this mixture of a Frankenstein culture and elements from different eras. So like there are trucks, for example, and the equipment and the weaponry and everything you see is just amalgamation of what they could have found in junkyard.
Yeah.
They're upcycling their vehicles to make them killing machines, death-proof vehicles. They're swinging on these like dancing poles you'll see in circuses, high up so far to descend into opposing vehicles and then back towards. So like you see them in circuses. I love how everything has a use and a purpose, and there is a mixture of multiple eras of the old age, the Viking age, the pirate age, and then what's left of our age, because the world has pretty much dried up in oil. There's no rain, there's nothing growing anymore. This movie was shot in Namibia and South Africa, and of course Australia, but we can take it as it is set in the outback of Western Australia. And well, you know, Furiosa, for example, back to the upcycle, make use of everything. It looks like her arm has been replaced by this robotic, makeshift, self-made junkyard amalgamation of all these parts. It looks convincing enough that this is just her metal arm. And well, yeah, I'm just waffling now in this like cycle of state, because I just love this movie so much.
I think the best, this version of Mad Max is probably the best version. I don't know if you've seen the other ones, but this is the best version in terms of like, how do we portray a apocalyptic wasteland. I think that the other ones, the first one didn't do it too well, because it was still kind of on the verge of when society was collapsing. So maybe it's not as easy comparable. But this one felt like you said there, where they're taking elements from the old world and then this new world, and it does blend together really well. That it's kind of, even though it's set in this fictionalized wasteland in Australia, there's still moments where you're like, oh, I recognize that. Or the girls are sitting in the middle of the night and they see a satellite, you know, pass over, and they say, oh yeah, I know what that is. That's a satellite. They used to beam shows down, and you're kind of they're talking about like modern day stuff with TV shows, and you're like, oh, this is really weird to hear it. Kind of, even though it's a post-apocalyptic world, they're still talking about the stuff from our era.
Yeah, even like with apparently a new religion, because one of the girls is praying to anyone who's listening, and you can see she's performing a ritual to herself that okay, this is a new prayer. They refer Furiosa's home as the green place, so obviously she comes from a place where everything in nature was just going good, and everything was growing, like a farm, I would bet. And what else? Like they don't treat, like, let's say, people like Max as people. Nux, played by Nicholas Hoult, refers to him as blood bag, and he's telling him, witness me, blood bag. Like, they're treating them like an object, but they know right well this object, this pest, this animal, if you will, would go to its instincts to survive. Because when Nux driver or side guy, who was, you know, also was in the X-Men movies with Nicholas Hoult, that guy, when he's you know, kicked off the car, Mad Max goes to, you know, get Holt off the wheel, but like, you know, he closes the windows, closes everything, knowing right well he's gonna kill himself. And like, I just think it's funny that Nux, oh, I'm just gonna close his windows, I'm gonna stop you from you know, stopping me from, like, you know, it's like your pet wolf is gonna go bite you because you have it chained up at the opportunity. You know, not treating him like human.
And you're right, he's very much treating him like property, because of the fact that he's making that choice where it's like, he's gonna blow up the car and he's gonna have this glorious death, and Max is there and he knows he's chained to Max, but it's like, okay, but it's my glorious death. I don't really care about him. He is very much like, oh, that's just my blood bag.
And I love that this movie is pretty much through and through a chase.
Yeah.
This movie's a chase. It opens up with knowing who Max is. From the get-go, what you get, what, you know, I suppose hardcore fans don't want to see is the destruction of his car entirely. And you see Max is haunted by past survivors he was with. You know, this could have been in any time of Mad Max's life, canonically or not. And he's brought out into the open because of the plot driven by Furiosa. And after that tremendous opening chase, and after the sandstorm, Max takes it upon himself to go to be on his way after having a nice drink of war, and then, well, he's sort of forced to work together with Furiosa to keep going because she has her plan, and Max, his instinct, his goal is just to survive by the means he does throughout this movie. So it doesn't take the fact that, oh, well, I don't trust you with all these girls, so right, we'll wait, you know, because she's trying to bargain with him to let her and the girls onto the truck, but he's thinking, no. And then she bargains, okay, well, this truck, this will get you like a 5-minute head start, you know. And then, oh, well, you're relying on the kindness of a very bad man. You just harmed one of his wives because he accidentally shot one of his wives, grazing her leg. Well, no, he's not biting. He's just sitting there, you know, slightly looking at her, disengaged in eye contact. He's like an animal. He's not a human at all. But then what does she say to get him to let them all in? You want that thing off your face? What, any animal, like a dog wearing a cone, or, you know, if you put something on a dog, it just wants to get it off.
Yeah.
That's what it took for Max to let them in. Still putting a gun at everyone in the truck if he thinks something's up.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so he's just chiseling the whole way through to get the Hannibal Lecter like mask off. I feel like Tom Hardy's Mad Max is now iconic because of that.
I think Tom Hardy is iconic for the masks that he wears. I think he does really well whenever his face is covered for some reason. Like, he obviously, in this, he's Bane, where his face is covered the entire time. Dunkirk, his face is covered pretty much the entire time in that. Even Venom, I guess you could make an argument for that because he's behind Venom.
Yeah, well, I like when he does break free of this mask. It's like, now he's free, he's loose. Like, he is, because he says it himself, Tom Hardy's Max, that he has been reduced to one form of survival, and his instinct is just that: survive by any means necessary. And yes,
and I like that what you were saying there at the beginning about him being like a passive hero. Like, I think he's very much like a reluctant cog in this machine. He doesn't want to be on this journey at all. Like, he was just by himself at the beginning and he was fine by that, and then he's obviously thrown into this, and then throughout he's just kind of nearly always looking for a way out. Like, he escapes from the
Citadel.
The Citadel, yeah, but he's up on top, he's too high, he can't get away. And then as soon as he is free from Nux, was it? Nux?
Yeah,
Nux. That he's like going over to the girls, and it's not even like he's, because they're all, like you were saying there, they're all Immortan Joe's wives. That's called them what they are. They're his, slaves. And they come over and they like see him and they're like, oh shit, what's he gonna do? And like, all he wants is to be unconnected to your man, and to get some water. And then he's just taking the truck and he's leaving. Like, he's not going to harm them. I'd never felt like he was going to harm them at all. Even if he did have the gun, the gun is fully there for protection, for himself and his survival. Like, he's not, I wouldn't ever get that he's like a cruel person. But he's, like you're saying there, with his survival, he knows how to survive and he knows how to get down and dirty. Like the scene at nighttime where the truck is moving and he goes back behind and he comes back and he's covered in blood, and the girls are like, oh, are you okay? And Furiosa says, oh, it's not his blood. Like, you don't ever see that fight, but it's still like, like, oh, that was brutal, and you can hear it. And the fact he's covered in someone else's blood, like, he can get down and dirty, but like you're saying there, he's just surviving. He's just trying to get through.
I like that we got that moment where we get an action scene where we don't see what happened. You can just let your imagination go for it. To go into just earlier in the movie, when he wanted to break free of Nux from the chain, you know what, he's trying to bite his fingers off, but he can't.
Yeah.
He's shake and juggle, like, you know, he's not thinking. He's just being like aggressive and animalistic and trying to remove the chain from his hand. And what? Oh, classic Mad Max double barrel sawed-off shotgun gets it. You know, give the audience what to subvert their expectations. The gun doesn't go off. It's like the bullets are dodgy.
And there was no hesitation. No hesitation either. He just pulls the trigger and he's like, "Oh fuck, it doesn't work."
Yeah.
And then that eventually leads.
He was ready to blow his arm off.
Yeah, and that eventually leads then
his arm off.
That eventually leads then to this awesome fight scene between him, Nux, the girls, and Furiosa, but where him and Nux are still chained together. So like it's just like this really interesting fight scene where it's like you kind of feel like Max is fighting for himself, Furiosa is fighting for the girls, and Nux is fighting for Max, but Max has no skin in the game for Nux at all. So it's like this mismatch of so many parties that are all trying to fight and they're tangled together, but they're also not, and it's like all the alliances are certain ways. It's just a really interesting fight to have two people chained together who are not fighting together, but one is, you know.
And Furiosa fighting with one arm, she lost because she has one arm, but she would have won probably if she had two arms, because that's pretty much, that just had her lose to that fight. But Max like warns her about shooting the gun, doesn't kill her, doesn't want to kill her.
No, and he could have easily.
Furiosa, but Furiosa put, oh Jesus, like just the strength in her, the capabilities of her, and she was ready to kill Max right then and there with the gun, which, you know, wasn't working. So to see that she's brutal and willing to kill anyone, because, you know, she probably thinks he's with Joe,
and there's a few times she pulls guns out of hidden guns, you know, and Max is ready for it. Like when she's starting the car, like she reaches down and he's like, "Oh, what's that?" And she pulls up the gun, like she went for the gun straight away. Or that the gear shift is actually a knife. You know, she's prepared and she's a fighter. And I like that her and Max, they don't get on to begin with. That there is that you know, opposing forces kind of way. Like they're just getting in each other's way, I think.
And the way Max like searches the entire truck from where they're sitting, like even how he grabs the bag, he's shaking at everything. He's not being like very thorough about it. He's being aggressive and animalistic. He himself is deranged. He is descending into madness. That's Mad Max. Now everyone has it from one degree or another, but you do look at Max and he is the most sanest of them all. One of the most sanest people. But it's just these little things that I just really love seeing. And after where Furiosa, alright, she needs his help, you're gonna have to get ready to drive, while she goes out to distract the guys, give the motorcyclists their payment for the fuel. And then she sees, okay, well, there's 3 war parties coming and there's no time, they're probably gonna shoot her anyway. So what does she do? She yells "fool," which is the code for Max to start driving out of there. Before we see anything else, Max is already in the driver's seat driving off. I love that hard cut, no slack of seconds being wasted, straight into the chase out of there. And then Furiosa climbs up at the bottom, and then Max and Furiosa, this time Max driving. It's nice that he's driving while Furiosa's on the guns trying to shoot everyone that's coming on the way. And I love this moment of teamwork for the first time within each other, because he's loading guns for her, and one of Morton's goons propels a gun to pretty much break off the steering wheel, catches Max in his hand, so it's crushing his hand, it's breaking his hand. And I love that everyone immediately tries to, you know, free Max from his hand. They don't like, oh well, you know, they didn't kick him out of the truck. Yeah, they didn't leave him there. Everyone tried their best to cut the harpoon that caught the steering wheel and his hand. I just love that little moment. Like it's like, you know, it's harming on pain. And then even the wives helping out as well, protecting Furiosa, and then just helping everyone. Just everyone is just doing their little bit to help out. And I just want to make this point here. Throughout the movie, particularly in the final chase, I'm looking at the choreography from Max's perspective. You know, everyone has their job, right? Nux eventually, in the end, is trying to repair the engine. Furiosa is driving. The girls are trying to keep safe, and all the older women, the many mothers, are like in their positioned roles, staying there. Max is like a cog in the machine that is trying to accommodate everyone. He's starting in one place of the truck, and then he's running up and down, back and forward, and to the side and to the left, and everywhere else, trying to provide his services of preventing Morton's goons to capture the raw rig and kill anyone and remove him off the truck. He's like going from point A to B to C. He's like just doing his best. He's just going everywhere. You know, he's not like focused on one position. He's running all over the goddamn place, even switching vehicles to vehicles. Like, he goes to like 3 different vehicles in this mad chase scene. It's just so riveting. And like he's doing everything he can. Max, go here. Max, go do this. It's like in a time of peril and terror where you can't think, just do. Max just does. He like volleyballs into someone off a truck. He grabs someone to use them as a shield to a chainsaw. And what else happens? He gets an arrow, a steel arrow, shot to his head, stopped to his hand. And what happens there? Like, he's daunting for a minute. He's trying, hey, you okay? Get up, go do something, Max. Do something. And then he pulls the arrow off his hand as if it's, I don't know, it's like a needle.
Yeah.
You know? It's hard. I don't know how it's unaffected on me, but it's just nice to see that. But yeah.
I think the most impressive thing about that, like you're saying, like Max is going everywhere and he's fighting so hard for this, making sure that everyone is helped, everyone is going to make it back to the Citadel okay, is that he knows this isn't for him, because he's working so hard for something that he immediately leaves. You know, as soon as everyone is back safe and the girls are all going up into the Citadel, up to the higher level, there's that shot of him just walking through the crowd and he's leaving, and it's like, because this isn't Max's story. He's been here the entire time but doesn't want to be.
And that also furthers his basic level of survival. He can't do it here. He has to do it on the road. Yeah. Continuing the legend and tale of Mad Max. Because when you think about it, think now, we have the Mel Gibson trilogy, yes, but now what this Fury Road movie did, this created, I guess you could say, a universe of the environment and universe of the Mad Max franchise. You can make games out of this, you can make graphic novels out of this. It's just Mad Max and coming across a new story and new characters within this vast wasteland. You can do so much, and you create new characters. We are already getting a prequel spin-off of a young Furiosa. That is one step further of getting another Mad Max movie, you know. And
there's absolutely no problem in you not having seen any of the Mel Gibson movies to watch this. You can just
not one
jump right in. It's fine, because I hadn't seen them when I watched this first. I hadn't seen any of the Mel Gibson movies. I'd heard of them. I knew what Mad Max was, but then this one came out and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. You know, you're in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. This is Max. Go.
You can almost treat them like they're James Bond movies. It's just a new movie. That's it. New movie about this IP, and you can just go straight into it, tell a new story. That's what George Miller said anyway. Like, for example, Mad Max's car in this movie is the same as the one he has in the first two. He doesn't have it in the third one, and he has it in this, but then it crashes. So maybe you can look at this maybe as an in between movie. I just see it as a new Mad Max story.
Yeah,
and it's the best one.
I agree. And come here. What was I going to ask you there? Is there any word of an actual sequel starring Tom Hardy other than the Furiosa movie?
Nothing that has been progressed beyond development. So there is a working title, Mad Max The Wasteland, which would have Tom Hardy just in a new Mad Max story. I don't know if that will ever happen. I just know that as of right now we are getting an Anya Taylor-Joy led Furiosa movie, and she was obviously recast, and great, no problem, no foul. This is not the first time a protagonist in a Mad Max movie has been recast. and this movie will be starring Chris Hemsworth as well. So go figure. We'll get that movie in 2024.
I'm looking forward to it.
Very much looking forward to that. Do you know what else I'm looking forward to? Is the score from Junkie XL, who scored Fury Road. David, there are like 4 scenes during the chase of this movie where I just sit, I fold my arms, or I clench my fists, and I just stare and I listen. The tornado scene in the sandstorm, the scene where Furiosa gets stabbed and she's catching Tom Hardy's Max by the leg at the side of the door outside the moving convoy of vehicles, and her belt is unbuttoning, so you know, if that unbuttons completely, Max falls. That music score where and then you just cut to that wide shot of all the convoy of vehicles just continuing driving, and she's still driving, her foot is still to the pedal, ongoing driving in this chase, and she's just been stabbed in the waist. Another scene that the music gets me going was Nux' death, where it's like, well, I'm fucked, but he completes his arc in saying, witness me, he dies gloriously on the Fury Road, driving the Warwick, crashing it.
And for the right cause this time.
For the right cause this time. That was I wouldn't have changed it any other way. It was so good. And yeah, Dave, I don't even know how I could really describe the score of this movie other than you just got to watch it and listen to it. The high, fast-paced pitch of the violins, I've heard it all over the trailers, and you just hear it in the movie. It's like it's almost as fast moving as the editing itself. Like it's missing a couple of frames per second, and it's fast going. It's you know, oh man, Jesus, you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Listeners, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about.
It's like you were playing any of the Doom games. Do you know? Like, it's not like I would sit down and listen to a Doom soundtrack, but when I'm playing it, you're just like, oh yeah, this fits so well. It's perfect. And you might not be into that kind of heavy metal stuff, but you are when you're watching the visuals that match it completely.
Oh, I've driven on long drives listening to these scores of Flashbacks Fury Road, so I have. David, I'd like to take a quick break with my waffling to do more waffling on some flashbacks.
Oh, brilliant! Yes, hit me with some flashbacks.
I got some flashbacks for you. Flashback number 1. Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron did not get on.
Is that... I was going to say, is that maybe why we haven't gotten a sequel, or is that why Anna Taylor-Joy? But I would assume that Tom Hardy's not in Furiosa.
Well, I wouldn't expect Tom Hardy being Furiosa because it's a young Furiosa before Furiosa met Max, so I 100% agree that Max should not be in it. And Anya Taylor-Joy was cast because she's a younger Furiosa, a much younger one, and that's exactly it. I think Tom Hardy was being a bit of a diva and a dick, showing up late, and sort of holding his trumpet a bit high. But then I think things sort of blew out of control and proportion between the two actors, like saying, who the hell is he? You should charge him this amount of money for every minute he's costing us time. And well, it just kept on going to the point where they just need to be separate throughout the production. But I think Tom Hardy has come out to say, I should have been a better partner in lead for this movie.
Okay,
but it's nice. There's like, they may never ever work together again, but at least we know they've sort of solved, or at least put to bed their issues. Cause, even Charlize Theron doesn't want to rehash anything.
Yeah, it's not nice to hear that the two actors didn't get on a set, because you like to think that, you know, the characters that end up being friends at the end are friends in real life. But at least he's able to, you know, if he has a fault, put his hands up and say, like, look, that's my bad. I should have been more professional. I'm sorry about that. Yes. And you're right. Maybe they won't work together again, but maybe there's a mutual understanding. The apology was accepted. We won't know, but
yes.
Yeah, it's good to hear.
Flashback number 2. George Miller had a lawsuit with Warner Brothers because his movie in Fury Road came into 154 million, which was under budget of 157 million. So George Miller and his production company were expecting a bonus, I think, of 9 million. But because of setback and pushback and delays and reshoots demanded by Warner Brothers. The budget ballooned to the total of 180 something billion.
Wow.
And because of that, well, there was just this long-lasting court case between Warner Brothers and George Miller, and just because like he claims that I had it kept under budget, but then Warner Brothers demanded I add this and add this and add this and had to shoot this and that and just keep it going, because he pitched it as 100 minutes and it's 2 hours, over 2 hours. So but that court case is settled. I think everyone left that a little bit happy and a little bit sad, but business is business, because he's doing Furiosa. George Miller is doing Furiosa with Warner Brothers. So that's just business is business. Let's keep going.
Yeah,
this is a separate thing with the court case. So, good on him.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's really strange to hear, that not only are you going through a legal battle with the company, but then that they would let you make the next one. I know maybe it's, he got some kind of producing. He maybe would be pushed to just a producer or an executive producer or something like that. But the fact that he's directing it, you're right. That's definitely like this is one thing, and our professional relationship is another thing, and we'll keep these two things separate. Please make us another movie, because I'm sure Fury Road was a financial success, and the fact that George Miller has...
Not exactly.
Oh, okay.
It didn't make them. It broke even, and it made maybe a little bit of money, but it didn't.
But it won a few Oscars, didn't it?
Nominations. 10 nominations, I think, or 6 nominations.
That's not bad. Nomination is a nomination, so...
Yeah. I got a final flash fact for you, David. George Miller conceived of a chase movie back in 1987. And a chase scene set in a Mad Max world. And he didn't actually make it feasible to do it until 1998, I believe.
Oh.
And then in the early 2000s, let's say 2001, he was eyeing Heath Ledger to play Mad Max. Because Mel Gibson was going through some issues with the media and, well, with the controversy of Mel Gibson. He thought, there was this graphic novel where another guy voiced Mad Max in an audiobook, so, it doesn't need to be one actor. So talk about willing to recast from the director itself. And he also agrees that, Mel Gibson's getting too old to play Mad Max and we need a younger guy. So George Miller is the man. But unfortunately, with the 9/11 attacks, the dollar for the US converted to the Australian dollar was just ballooned through the roof, causing the budget for the movie to just skyrocket. And then they couldn't do it. And then with the Iraq War, they couldn't go to certain locations. And then just money was not, like, for a budget like that, he couldn't do it. And then with Heath Ledger passing, it just further stalled it. And then eventually, he got to make it, and he got to cast Tom Hardy, and then the rest is history. But that was a long process, from development to development hell to pre-production to not being worked on and then to being made.
I'm surprised that the kind of, when you hear like, a movie's in development hell, that it's not getting made, because George Miller, he did have the he was supposed to do a Justice League movie. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
He had even actors cast and shots taken, like promo shots, to show studios and all this, and that, fell flat, didn't get made. So to hear that he did have all these issues and he was still able to come out the other side and make it, that's impressive. I just wanted to follow up on your second fact there, like we were saying there about the Oscars. I just looked it up there. This got nominated for so many Oscars. It won 6. It was nominated for 10. It won 6.
Oh my God.
The only ones that it didn't win. So it won for Best Costume Design, Best Film Editing, Best Makeup and Hairstyling, Best Production Design, Best Sound Editing, Best Sound Mixing. And it lost for Best Visual Effects, which that's crazy. And then it lost Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Cinematography. So it was nominated in like every single major category. So that makes fully sense that Warner Brothers is like, yes, please make us another one. You'll never know what can happen.
You never know what can happen. This concludes this segment of Flash Facts. Laura, cue your music. So, David, have you any other additional thoughts? Because there's things that are just flying all over my head like right now. I was watching this movie when I did. It feels like if you fall off a moving truck in this movie, it's like falling into lava and you're gone.
Yeah.
It's like the sand in the vast wasteland is just treated like lava, and you're safe when you're on a moving vehicle. And yeah, I just thought that was interesting. I thought also Max and Furiosa got a form of redemption for themselves in the end. And when Max goes to give blood to Furiosa when she was dying, this animal with aggressive survival instincts says, "My name is Max." Mm-hmm. And this descended human into, I just keep repeating it, but it's just the fact that, like, it's imagine this feral thing in the end of the journey and the adventure you've been on, tells you their name, just humanizing them a little bit. Mm-hmm. I just like that bit. It's funny that as a passive protagonist, he also doesn't speak much. He grunts a lot. Mm-hmm. I remember my older brother saying, "Oh, shit movie. He doesn't say more than 15 words." And I'm thinking, that's false. But I can see where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
you don't need your protagonist to be as vocal. Like, I think that he stamps himself in, like, you have a very clear image of what he is and who he is nearly because he doesn't speak. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like, when he's there trying to get the girls to give him the water, and get the chain undone. Like, he's got the gun pointed and he's like pointing at them, and he just kind of moves the gun to the right to gesture at who he wants to do what, rather than saying, "No, you, no, you, bring this here, bring that there." He'll just point the gun and he gets the point across. Like, he is very much a silent protagonist, and that's not a problem. There's a lot of movies that have very silent protagonists.
Max Rokitansky is a fantastic hero in the world that he's in. And do you know what also makes for this world is the villain in Immortan Joe. The wickedness of this monster of a man, this atrociously vicious villain, the voice work. My God. What can you say to Immortan Joe?
He's like, you were introduced to him. It's interesting because he's there. He's getting the armor on, and someone's like blowing like kind of like a talcum powder on his wounds and stuff like that. So you're kind of introduced to him nearly as like this frail old man. He's like an over-bloated, frail old man. But then he comes out and there's no indication of that at all. Like, he's very much like a revered figure in this citadel that he's created. Like, he's a warlord, and he's very much, he's not loved, he's feared. And that's very clear. Like, at the end when his body is dead, they return his body to the citadel, and he's just torn to pieces by the crowd because he doesn't give them water. Like, he gives them water, but it's in such, like, it's so stupid because when he has those moments where he like opens up the pumps and all this water flows out and like nobody gets any because it's flowing out into the air and it's coming down like rainwater. So even though there's an abundance of it, nobody gets anything, as opposed to just like letting people have access. And if they all got like a bucket each, everyone would be fine. But because he's like this dictator and everything does what he wants, that's why he's like feared instead of loved. But I would have liked to see a bit more of him. I think I would have liked to see a bit more of his cruelty and made him a bit more of a villain, because a lot of it is told and not shown. Because obviously the girls are saying, no, I obviously don't want to see, girls being abused or anything like that. But the girls obviously tell you like how bad he is. And then his whole journey is him trying to get them back.
Yeah.
So I just would have liked to see a bit more of him being like cruel, or just make him more of a villain, a bit more of a presence. I know he's constantly chasing them, but there are the other factions and stuff like that, so I would like to see that a bit more. I thought it was interesting, the kids that he had. Like, he had multiple children, and they were all like just slightly like deformed or something wrong. Like, one couldn't breathe properly, one was incredibly short, like was bound to the chair. So I would have liked to see that
That's why he wanted an heir. That's why he wanted the perfect specimen.
Yeah.
A healthy baby. Mm-hmm. That's his goal. That's why he wouldn't shoot one of his wives, but he still calls it my property.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he is a bastard. He is an awful bastard that he thinks that humans are property and water is property and all this stuff. Like he is a bad guy. I just would have liked to see more.
I think he's the best Mad Max villain.
I think so.
Not that there's many to go around, but if you're to divvy them all up, he takes the toll. And awesome death scene as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like one of those gruesome death scenes that, like, yeah, you deserve that. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
And you know what happens, and the camera pans away. You don't see it exactly. You don't see it graphically, but you see
enough.
Like
yeah,
how it's you see enough of how it's done.
Something we didn't touch on was the cinematography. This movie is so beautiful. Like it's a vast desert wasteland, but holy shit, is it stunning? You know.
I don't know how they shot it.
No,
I still don't know how they shot it.
I don't know. It's the
was that on drones? Was that in helicopters?
It must have been. I don't know. Like back in 2015, so it wouldn't have been where drones were very prevalent. But I don't know. Like I feel like with helicopters, it would have moved the sand a lot. But no, whatever they did, it was fantastic. And the saturation, like the days are so orange and the nights are so blue, and it's great.
Yeah.
The contrast of that in the wasteland, it's absolutely stunning. I quite like Knox.
The color grade.
Yeah, it was definitely the color grade. It was fantastic though. I really like Knox. I liked his progression over the course of the movie and his like realization that he's not meant for that life. And him and one of the wives kind of forming, I suppose, in a way a romantic relationship, but it's not ever taken like romantically. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't think there's ever a kiss or anything like that.
It was pity and compassion.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is, isn't it? It's like a nearly like mother and son kind of love, but not to that extent. Like there's like a caring, I suppose, for him, because caring. It's very much like she knows, like, oh, he's not. He's dead. He's a dead man walking.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think he like nailed everything else that I wanted to say. Like, you know, Max is a reluctant hero is fantastic. I liked how you said at the start, like, we see this movie with a protagonist who's trying to save all these girls, and Max is along for the ride too. Like it's very much, it should be Furiosa, and I'm glad we're getting that movie. If you actually watch the movie at the start, when the titles come up before Mad Max Fury Road, it comes up Tom Hardy as Max Roxansky, and on the same title card is Charlize Theron as Furiosa. Like they're equal protagonists.
Yeah.
They're both. It might be Mad Max's movie, you might say his name, but she is very much equal, if not more, of the main character.
Yeah, I think this movie did wonders for George Miller's career, for the action genre, and for the franchise of Mad Max. Like this movie is the sole reason why I'm looking forward to Furiosa so much. There's no actors really from this movie, aside from some supporting actors, are actually returning, like the doctor with the beard, and actually Immortan Joe's son, the big guy. But I bet they're going to be playing different characters, because that was the thing. The villain in this movie, Hugh Week. Oh god, I'm so sorry, I don't know his name. But the actor who played the villain in this is the same actor in the first movies, and he's the villain in that.
Oh, I think I did know that. Yeah, that was one of those obscure facts I did know, but I couldn't have told you that. Only the fact that you're saying now, I was like, oh yeah. That reminds me of it.
So George Miller is no problem casting the same actors in different roles. So I bet, because there's a synopsis for Furiosa, I bet that Chris Hemsworth is playing a young Immortan Joe.
Oh, I think that's a bit of a stretch. I think that just the timeline wise, because Immortan Joe feels like, to me, he's like in his like late 60s, early 70s, just of his looks.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't see that between the difference of like Chris Hemsworth and Anna Taylor-Joy.
Well, the synopsis just does read that there is two warlords battling for dominance, and Furiosa is in the mix of it all, and it's going to take place over the course a long period of time, whereas this movie is taking place over the course like 3 days. So Yahya Abdul-Mateen was supposed to play the other warlord, I bet, but he was recast by some English bloke who was available. So, and the other warlord is called Dr. Nemesis, who was also I think originated from a Mad Max game.
Oh, okay.
So, this movie is just it's like an integral franchise, you know. It's like almost becoming like what Star Wars was, with all these canon now, non-canon side stories of all these material. So it's great that this is a franchise that has not yet been milked.
Yeah, it's sparingly, but like there's, like you were saying there's so much potential for it. Like I could definitely see graphic novels of this. You could see spin-off after spin-off and all. But the fact that this is the fourth movie, but this one was essentially like almost like a soft reboot. It's like a new entry point, and then we're getting a fifth movie that's a spin-off to that. Like it's a franchise that has a lot of potential, and we're just barely scratching the surface of this world. You know, it's there's still, I think, a lot to come.
Yes. David, I could talk about this movie all day, and you can just keep giving me new things and insights about it. But unfortunately, we are out of time.
Oh, it's a shame.
Folks listening to us, I hope you have seen Mad Max Fury Road, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you did not enjoy it, well then, our email is talkingpicturespodcast1@gmail.com, and you can send us what you thought of the movie. Send us in its comments in whatever podcasting app you have of your choice to listen to us. We are on Spotify, and we have a new episode released every Wednesday, the minute it turns Wednesday. But we're not also just on Spotify, we're on Audible and, well, pretty much anything else you can think of that I'm forgetting right now, because I need to nail this closing. We are on Spotify and any other podcasting app of your choice. We release a new episode every Wednesday when it turns Wednesday. If you have any thoughts on our podcast, please send us some likes, send us some 5 stars, please, if you can. It costs you nothing and it gives us everything, if you wouldn't mind doing so. David, any final thoughts?
No, Brian, I think you nailed everything there. We're on all the podcast apps of choice. We're on Instagram, on Twitter, on X. You can find us all there. I think you nailed everything.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, Brian.